Is alcohol gluten-free? That's a question I'll be answering in this video. Stick around and find out. So one question we hear very often in the liquor store is, what products are gluten-free? Is there a vodka? Is there a rum? Is there a tequila? Is there something here that's gluten-free that I can drink myself or serve to a friend who's coming over with a gluten intolerance or celiac disease? So figured I'd make a quick video and address that topic. Gluten, for those that don't know, and I'm not an expert, so I'm just going to share my thoughts or what I understand. Gluten is a protein that is commonly found in certain grains like wheat and barley, rye, that kind of helps bind things together when you're making bread and those types of things. Unfortunately, that protein causes a reaction in some people, particularly those with celiac disease, which can be quite severe, or just an insensitivity to gluten, which might cause some other issues. So people that have those maladies tend to avoid products that contain gluten. It's definitely become more prevalent in recent years. You see a lot more products labeled gluten-free, both in the grocery store and in the wine and liquor stores. So that is what gluten is. The distillation process, which is how you make liquor, removes the gluten protein in the process of distilling the alcohol. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a distillation expert, but this is what my understanding of how that process works is when we're distilling alcohol. So the first step of that process is creating a fermented beverage, a fermented malt, which is used, so we use wheat, we use rye, we use barley, we use agave, all different products to create that mash bill, that fermented distiller's beer is often referred to. So that same process that brewers of beer and winemakers make, where they're taking a grain which has some starch and sugars, throwing in some yeast, and making a fermented beverage. That's the first step. So naturally, if we're using a product, a wheat in that mash bill, it would seem that the end product would also contain the gluten. And that is true for wine and beer. However, in the distillation process, we take that distiller's beer and we warm it up at a certain temperature, at a low temperature, where the only thing that is evaporating, the only thing that's turning into vapor, is alcohol. Because the alcohol starts to vaporize at a lower temperature than other liquids and other products. So the alcohol vapors start rising into the still, where they're then cooled, condensed back into liquid, and then collected in a separate tank. Whereas the rest of that beer, including those gluten proteins, are still left in that tank and are completely separated from the distillate. So as long as the distillate is done correctly, there should be no gluten proteins left in the end product, no matter what the starting substrate is. So for example, we have a product that clearly says right there that it is made with French wheat, but it also says gluten-free right on the label, so you know that this product is gluten-free. All of these up here will have that gluten-free label on them, just as some examples, but there are plenty more products out there that are gluten-free and labeled as such. Back to that, my statement that all distilled alcohol should be gluten-free. Some manufacturers don't want to take that step to actually put it on the label because they either aren't interested, don't know, aren't aware that this is a thing, or more likely there might be some possibility of cross-contamination in their facilities after the distillation process. So if you're in a big facility with a lot of wheat, crushed wheat, grinding, milling, all that kind of stuff, there might be dust and powder in the air that may get into the bottles or onto the corks or wherever just that slight possibility of cross-contamination. And so some of those manufacturers might not want to go to this step of actually labeling it on their bottle. so they're not liable if somebody ends up getting sick from a gluten allergy. That's, so we have, like I said, examples here, a bunch of liquors, rum, a gin, a couple vodkas, tequila, and even a canned cocktail that is made with gluten-free. And one of the things that you do have to pay attention to, this is flavored, this is a mixed cocktail, so there's other ingredients in it. Again, like I said, that distilled product should be gluten-free. But then when the company goes back and starts adding other stuff to it, like flavors and other ingredients, you have to be mindful that they're not putting gluten back into those. And so those are a little bit even more important to watch for that gluten-free label on the packaging so that you know for sure that it is gluten-free. We even have wines that will label themselves as gluten-free just for that extra level of caution for those people that are severely allergic to glutens. Wines are made from grapes, which usually shouldn't have any gluten in them either, although some wine makers do coat the insides of barrels with flour and then dump them out before they put the wine in for aging. It's very, very low amounts of gluten possibility, but still that possibility of cross-contamination. I've never heard of anybody getting sick, having a gluten reaction to any wine, but like I said, it's more and more winemakers and alcohol producers in general are taking that extra step of actually giving you the comfort and labeling the products as gluten-free. Hope this helps clarify some of that confusion about whether or not alcohol and liquor in particular is gluten-free. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Look forward to hearing your feedback. And if you have a favorite gluten-free alcohol, please let us know in the comments. Look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.